As dawn breaks, you feel the warmth of sunlight settle on the green canopy above. Each leaf awakens slowly, stretching toward the light. Here begins the secret ritual, silent, ancient, and essential. The forest breathes, and the world stirs with quiet purpose. You are about to witness the alchemy of light. Full chapter body, you wake beneath a vaulted cathedral of green. The air is still, except for the occasional rustle leaves stirring in their sleep. Above, sunlight begins to trickle through the canopy like golden syrup, slow and deliberate, warming the world one breath at a time. You watch as the leaves begin their quiet dance, not hurried, but reverent. Each unfurls toward the sky, pulled gently by the promise of light. This is photosynthesis, though no one speaks the word here. Instead, it is a ritual ancient and continuous, a sacred exchange between light and leaf, air and breath. You take in the scent of moss and dew. Invisible to the eye, a miracle unfolds. Photons, tiny packets of sunlight, kiss the green skin of chlorophyll. In response, electrons leap, like birds startled into flight. This is how energy begins its journey, how sunlight becomes sugar, how sugar becomes life. You are standing at the first link in the chain of being, not above it, within it. This green world so quiet is working, breathing, making, giving. The trees are factories, yes, but also musicians, turning light into the melody of life. Oxygen drifts from their leaves, unseen but essential. The sky itself owes them its breath. And just as you begin to wonder how this energy travels, how it fuels more than trees, how it moves into roots, into creatures, into you, you sense the forest leaning into a deeper question. You lie still, eyes soft, as the world around you slows. Above, a single leaf sways in the breeze, its edges trembling in the sun. You drift closer, not walking, not flying, simply moving, as if thought itself were carrying you. The green of the leaf grows brighter, more vivid, until it fills your vision. It is not just a color, it is a doorway. You pass through the surface, gently, as if slipping into water. Inside, the world changes. You find yourself in a quiet labyrinth of cells, soft-walled rooms, bathed in green light. The walls shimmer with tiny sacs and shapes, all alive, all moving. There is no noise, but there is rhythm, a heartbeat of energy pulsing through invisible threads. This is the chloroplast, a sunlit sanctuary inside every leaf. You float through its soft architecture, where the light of the sun is not just warmth, but purpose. Sunlight, after traveling millions of kilometers, finally arrives here, not in fanfare, not in fire, but in silence. It brushes against molecules of chlorophyll, nestled like gems inside the leaf's inner sanctum. Chlorophyll, the emerald pigment, does something astonishing. It catches sunlight like a net. A single photon strikes a chlorophyll molecule, and in that tiny touch something ancient begins. Energy is passed, hand to hand, molecule to molecule, like a whispered secret racing through a crowd. You watch this dance unfold. One light particle begins a journey, and suddenly, it splits water. Yes, water drawn up from the roots, traveling all the way through stems and veins, arrives in the leaf and meets sunlight here. And with the sun's help, water's bonds are broken. The oxygen, now freed, drifts out, rising up and out through the pores, into the sky. This is the breath of plants, the exhale that fills your lungs with life. But something else remains: electrons. These tiny charged sparks are now the stars of the show. They travel along a path, a chain of hands, moving through proteins and pigments, down what scientists call the electron transport chain. You simply call it the golden path of light's transformation. As you follow the electrons, you notice a shift. Each step they take fuels small machines, invisible turbines, turning inside the leaf. They make energy molecules, ATP, NADPH, soft names for tiny batteries, charged by sunlight and carried like lanterns into the next chamber. Here, in a cycle both elegant and ancient, Carbon dioxide joins the dance. It has wandered in from the air, a quiet passenger, and now, under the careful guidance of enzymes, it is woven into sugar. You watch carbon atoms pair and rearrange, linking with the energy the sun gave moments before. The result? Glucose, a simple sugar, not just food, but life. Energy stored, tucked away in tiny bonds. This sugar will travel through the plant, feeding stems, fruit, seeds. It will become wood. It will become flowers. It will become fuel for other creatures, even for you. You linger here, in this quiet moment of making. You see the light transformed not into fire, not into sound, but into something more gentle, the promise of growth. All of it has happened without noise, without any drama, just chemistry, slow and sacred. A thought floats by. This happens in every leaf, on every tree, every blade of grass, every fern curling in the shadows. It happens while you sleep. It happens while you worry. It happens while the world rushes on. Photosynthesis, a word too long to whisper, is happening always, like a silent vow kept by the green world. You begin to drift back now, rising out of the chloroplast, out of the cell, through the leaf's soft surface. The green fades to forest. You hover just above the canopy, where thousands of leaves turn like solar sails, all quietly working. The wind brushes your face. You breathe in. The oxygen you inhale might have been made just moments ago, in the cell you visited. The sugar in the fruit you eat might have been born from a photon caught on a summer afternoon. And now you wonder, if this is what a leaf can do, what other quiet wonders fill the living world? You lie still, your breath slow and even, as if your body too is rooted to the earth. You picture yourself as a seed beneath the soil, quiet, buried, waiting. Around you, the world is hushed, save for a whisper rising from below. It is the sound of water not rushing, not loud, but a deep, devoted pull, as ancient as time. Water waits in the soil, not idle, not lost, but full of quiet purpose. It clings gently to particles of earth, tucks itself into tiny pockets between grains of sand, and listens for a call. That call comes from above, from something unseen but deeply felt, the thirst of life reaching down like a hand. Roots stretch into the earth, like fingers in prayer. They do not hunt exactly. They sense, they respond. Minute hairs along their surface expand the boundary of the plant's awareness. And when they find moisture, they do not drink greedily. They draw it in with grace, a gentle invitation, a silent communion. Capillary action begins the journey. It is not powered by pumps or engines, but by the invisible laws that govern small things. Water molecules cling to each other, cohesive, and to the walls of their vessels adhesive, and so they rise, as if pulled by longing, by the soft insistence of connection. Through the roots, into xylem tubes thinner than a thread, water begins its pilgrimage. The stem is no mere support. It is a column of movement, a passage of ascent. Inside, the xylem is a quiet cathedral where water flows upward, sustained by surface tension, cohesion, and the unrelenting pull of evaporation above. This is not the urgency of a river. This is the meditation of a mountain spring. As you imagine this journey, you can feel it in your own body, the lift of breath, the quiet pulse behind your ribs, the way blood moves unseen yet essential. There is a kinship here between leaf and lung, between the green world and the red world within you. Higher still the water climbs. It does not rush. It does not need to. The sun above is constant in its call. Its warmth draws moisture from the leaves, and with each droplet lost to the sky, more is pulled up from the ground. Transpiration, the breath of plants, creates a chain of motion so delicate it could be broken by air, and yet it holds, like the thread of a spider's silk across a morning path. Finally, the water reaches the leaf, that fragile green sail turned toward light. Inside, it spreads through tiny veins, branching like rivers in miniature. It reaches every cell, every corner, every trembling edge. The leaf does not shout its joy. It simply opens, turns, and lets light in. With water now in place, photosynthesis begins. Sunlight pours into the leaf like gold through stained glass. It meets carbon dioxide drifting in through tiny pores called stomata, small mouths that open and close with the rhythm of day and night. And together with the water lifted from the roots, this quiet alchemy occurs. You are breathing now, and you are aware perhaps more than before that the oxygen you inhale was shaped by this very moment. A leaf reaching, receiving, releasing, it gives without demand, and you receive without knowing. But beneath this graceful exchange is a deeper truth. The leaf could not open without the water's rise. It is water that keeps it full, spread, alive. Without it, the leaf would droop, close, falter, and so every green surface you've ever seen, every tree, vine, blade of grass owes its shape to a force moving silently from below. This is not just a fact of biology, it is a lesson in patience, in trust. The tree does not chase water, it sends its roots, waits, listens, and when the water comes, it honors the gift by lifting it upward, by transforming it into breath and beauty. Even in drought, the system remembers, leaves may fall but roots remain. Waiting, listening, knowing that rain will return, and the upward journey will begin again. Think now of all the hands this process has touched. The fruit you've eaten, the wood of your chair, the paper of this page, all shaped by the steady rise of water. A quiet miracle beneath your notice, and yet without it, none of these could be. You are surrounded by this miracle. You are part of it. The water in your glass was once drawn up by a plant, passed into air, rained down again. It has traveled through time, through stone, through root, and now it becomes part of you. What then is the difference between your breath and the leaf's, between the blood in your veins and the sap in the stem? They are not the same, no, but they echo one another. They dance to the same music, played in different keys. The plant does not move, and yet it grows. You too grow in place. Through thought, through sleep, through the steady rhythm of being. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, picture the rising again. The way water ascends not because it must, but because everything above asks gently. The way each molecule plays its part in something larger. The way invisible forces cohesion, adhesion, tension create a symphony of upward motion. No one sees the water moving, and yet without it, the world would go still. The leaf trembles not from fear, but from fullness. It is heavy with what it has drawn from below. It does not hoard, it gives. And in that giving, it makes space to receive again. You are like that leaf, reaching, receiving, releasing. And just as the sun calls the water upward, there is a question rising now, forming like dew along the edge of thought. Where does the water go once it escapes the leaf, and how does the sky hold what the soil has given? Tiny mouths open beneath the leaves, silent, unseen. They sip the air and sigh it back out again, breathing not just for themselves, but for all life around them. Carbon dioxide slips in like a hush. Oxygen escapes like a slow exhale through trees that dream in daylight. Full chapter body, 1,200 words. You walk slowly through a forest, soft moss beneath your feet, and the hush of wind winding through the branches above. Sunlight dapples the leaves, and a kind of peace hums in the silence. The trees are still, yet everything feels alive, not in motion, but in breath. Beneath each leaf, tiny mouths open and close. You can't see them, but they are there, thousands of them, tens of thousands, arranged like tiny portals in a green mosaic. They are called stomata, from the Greek word for mouth. They are not mouths in the way you know them, but they serve a similar purpose. They are the gatekeepers of breath. Each stoma is bordered by 2 guard cells, curved like parentheses around an invisible whisper. When they open, air flows in. When they close, breath is held, quiet and waiting. It is a rhythm older than memory, a breath so slow it becomes the background to all life. You reach out and place your hand near a leaf, not touching, just feeling. The leaf breathes in carbon dioxide, the very thing you exhale, and uses it to weave sugars in its inner chambers. A quiet alchemy powered by sunlight. And then, as if in thanks, it releases oxygen. The very thing you need, a silent trade, hidden in green. You pause, That means this forest, and every plant within it, is listening in its own way to the chemistry of the atmosphere, to the rising of the sun, to the seasons turning like pages. The stomata are not always open. They open with purpose. They are choosy. If it's too hot or dry, they close. If water is scarce, they conserve. Plants know that breath is a balance not just for themselves, but for the entire web of life. You kneel beside a fern, ancient in its design. You picture the stomata lining its fronds, drinking in carbon dioxide that once spun from a volcano or spilled from your very own lungs. A single molecule of carbon may travel through 1,000 bodies before returning to the sky. Now, in this moment, it's inside a leaf shaping sugars, feeding roots and becoming part of the tree's slow growth toward the sun. The air you breathe, the very oxygen filling your lungs, now may have been exhaled from a birch tree at the edge of this forest, or a seagrass meadow thousands of kilometers away. And the carbon you release, gently and continuously, will one day become leaf or root or the body of a mushroom in some shaded glade. The cycle is not just poetic, it is precise and deeply interwoven. You breathe out carbon dioxide leaves your lungs like a soft sigh. The leaf breathes in carbon dioxide slips through the stomata, and the plant begins its quiet work. Inside, sunlight powers a factory of cells called chloroplasts. They take your exhaled carbon and stitch it into sugars, into the sweetness that fuels life. The plant grows, the leaf stretches toward the sky, and as it does, it gives back, releasing oxygen into the air. You breathe in, and so it continues. This invisible exchange is the reason you're here. You tilt your face toward the sunlight, filtering through the trees, and wonder at the patience of plants. They do not rush, they do not speak, but they act steadily, wisely, in harmony with the world. Their stomata are silent witnesses to time. They've opened and closed for hundreds of millions of years, long before lungs ever drew breath. Even underwater, the story continues. In the oceans, microscopic phytoplankton float in great blooming swirls, each carrying tiny stomata-like pores. They too breathe, drawing in carbon dioxide from the sea, releasing oxygen into the world. More than half of the oxygen you use each day is born in the ocean, in drifting cells no larger than dust. And so whether on land or sea, this global breathing happens everywhere, all at once. The earth inhales and exhales in patterns too large for you to feel directly, but your lungs know the rhythm. The carbon you carry is not yours alone. It moves between you and the trees, between the trees and the clouds, between the oceans and the sky. A never-ending exhale and inhale, shared by everything that lives. In this forest, that cycle feels close enough to touch. You sit now at the base of a tree, the bark rough and warm beneath your back. You close your eyes and listen. The leaves above you rustle gently. You imagine the stomata opening now, tiny mouths, drinking in your breath, feeding on your quiet presence, giving you life in return. You begin to breathe in time with them. A slow inhale, a slow exhale. You imagine your breath drifting upward, becoming part of the leaf, part of the tree, part of the air. The boundary between you and the forest begins to dissolve. You are not separate from this place. You are part of the same quiet rhythm. You are part of the same breath. You picture ancient forests, ones that no longer stand, whose trees once took in the breath of creatures long gone. The carbon they fixed now lies buried in stone, or released again into the air, and still, the stomata breathe on, in new leaves, in new forests, in the green shoots that push through cracks in the sidewalk. They are everywhere: on the maple, outside your window, the grass beneath your feet, the ivy curling along brick walls. Each stoma opens like a question. What will the air give me today? And each one closes with a promise. I will give something back. You feel your own breath again, slower now, deeper. Your lungs rise and fall like the tides. Your breath mingles with the breath of leaves. You too are a tiny part of this planetary respiration. And somewhere nearby, a new leaf unfurls, opening its stomata for the first time. It does not know your name, but it welcomes your breath all the same. The sun's energy doesn't arrive with a bang. It seeps, slow and golden, into the thylakoid membranes, There, light becomes movement, and electrons begin to dance a quiet, purposeful waltz. Word count 1,200 words. You are standing in the early morning stillness, bathed in the golden hush that touches the leaves like a blessing. Around you, the world stirs slowly. Nothing rushes here. Everything listens. A single leaf unfurls into the light. You step closer. Its green is impossibly deep, as though it hides 1,000 secrets under its surface. And beneath that green, it does. You are about to journey inside, not into the forest, but into the forest's engine. A soft glow guides you through the waxy skin of the leaf, into a realm smaller than any eye can see. Inside the cell, inside the chloroplast, there is quiet order. Green discs called thylakoids float gently in a bath of stroma, like lily pads on a pond. But these are not still, they are humming, waiting. And now the sun arrives. Its energy doesn't barge in, it does not shout. It drifts softly down, riding light waves through a sky thick with morning. These waves touch the leaf's surface, and are captured not with hands but with pigments. Chlorophyll stands ready. It has waited all night, and now it drinks sunlight. The energy is absorbed, not stored in jars or boxes, but transferred into motion. A single photon touches a molecule, and suddenly an electron shivers. It dances. This is not chaos. It is choreography. The electron leaps from its place in chlorophyll and begins a journey, a purposeful path along a chain of molecules that lie waiting like stepping stones in a stream. This is the electron transport chain, and the electron moves, not alone, but as a spark passed hand to hand, its energy released in careful measured steps. Each leap powers something essential. Little by little, protons are moved, slid across the thylakoid membrane like marbles gathered on one side of a bowl. And as they gather, a quiet pressure builds, an invisible tension. This gradient, this soft imbalance is not waste, it is potential. And then, like a gentle breath, it's released. Protons rush back through a special gate. ATP synthase, a spinning wheel powered by flow. With every turn it forges a molecule called ATP adenosine triphosphate. You might think of it as currency, but here it feels more like a promise. A whisper of energy held in a tight, careful clasp, ready to be spent on building, growing, being. And while all this happens, another path begins, a sister step in this green miracle. Water drawn up from the roots is offered to the light. It is split, torn gently, its electrons taken to replace those sent dancing by the photon. And what's left behind? Hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen stays part of the inner workings, but the oxygen, the othase, slips away, rises out of the leaf, out of the forest, out into the air. You breathe in. That breath you now know was born from light. So now you sit, cross-legged inside the chloroplast, watching this slow, quiet machinery. There is no ticking here, no industrial clatter, only flow, only the gentle unfolding of energy as it passes from sun to pigment to electron to molecule. From the outside, the leaf just trembles in the breeze, but you now see what it holds. A whole world woven from sun, and this is only half the tale. The ATP and NADPH, the quiet promises made in light, are not the end. They are merely letters of intention ready to be read by the second part of the story. Because what is energy if it cannot be turned into matter? What is light if it cannot become sugar? In the next chamber, the Calvin cycle waits. It is darker here, not because it is night, but because it does not need the sun directly. It listens instead to the messages left by the light reactions. It reads the ATP, unwraps the NADPH, and begins its careful work turning air into food, carbon into sweetness. But for now you linger in the golden green, in the light-soaked moment before matter is made. The leaf sways gently, the chloroplast hums. You are not just outside this process, you are a part of it. You breathe in oxygen, and eat the sugars that began as photons in this morning sun. You carry their energy in your every step. You are, in a way, sunlight rearranged. And just as electrons find their path, your thoughts drift now toward what happens next. how this bright energy will soon become something sweet, something soft, something worth saving. You rest beneath the dappled shade of a tree. Above you, sunlight filters through the leaves, not just light, but something softer, something deliberate. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you become the leaf. Inside, it's not loud, it's not bright like the sun outside. Instead, it's a calm, green hush, as though every cell holds its breath, waiting for something sacred to begin. The air around you holds carbon dioxide, those drifting, invisible specks, each one a whisper of the breath of the world, exhaled by a fox, a forest fire, the quiet rise and fall of your own lungs. Now that carbon, a single atom carried gently into the leaf, meets something ancient, something ready. Rubisco waits like an old weaver at her loom, threading carbon into the warp and weft of life. This is the Calvin cycle, not a machine, but a slow circle of hands folding, stitching, rearranging. It begins with the gift of carbon, received with patient care. The carbon joins a 5-carbon sugar, a molecule called rubip, a quiet meeting, not flashy, but intentional. They become one briefly, beautifully, before they are gently split again into 2. Each 3-carbon child carries the potential for sweetness, like soft dough before it becomes bread. They are not sugar yet, but they are becoming, and that's the sacred part, the becoming. ATP, the energy currency of sunlight caught, arrives now like warm hands pressing dough, shaping the molecules with care. Needy pH, rich with electrons, offers its quiet sparks, tiny acts of generosity, lighting the way forward, one bond at a time. And so, the 3-carbon molecules are transformed, little by little, into G3P. Glyceraldehyde, 3-phosphate. The name doesn't matter now. What matters is the feeling. Something has been made, not all of it stays. Most of these molecules return, looping back to rebuild the cycle to begin again, endlessly, softly. But one slips away, carrying with it the sweetness of potential. This G3P is the first true taste of sugar. From here, it can become glucose, the simple, sacred food of cells. Or it can join others, becoming starch, woven and stored like stories held inside the roots for seasons to come. You imagine this tiny sugar molecule traveling through the plant, perhaps to the edge of a growing root, or to a blossom where a bee waits in the light. You feel its weight not heavy, but meaningful. A carbon atom that was once in your breath is now nestled in a berry, or a leaf, or a blade of grass beneath your feet. And you begin to see it. This is not just chemistry, it's choreography, a dance of molecules, so precise, so unhurried, that it feels almost like prayer. This is how light becomes leaf, how breath becomes wood, how carbon is not lost but transformed. You follow that journey, feeling each step in your chest like the soft beat of your own heart. A rhythm ancient and unbroken, a cycle that turns without asking for praise. The Calvin cycle does not seek attention, it is not loud like the sun, or restless like fire. It is quiet, recursive, patient, like knitting, like lullabies, like the steady pulse of life beneath everything. And yet, from it grows forests. From it, fields of wheat. From it, the fruit in your hand, the breath in your lungs, the warmth in your blood. You realize something not in your mind, but in your marrow. Life is not made in grand moments, but in these invisible weavings. In every leaf, every hour of daylight, the Calvin cycle hums on, softly spinning carbon into sugar, potential into presence, air into apple. And in that soft green stillness, you begin to feel your own connection, that you too are woven from the breath of others, stitched by sunlight, fed by quiet transformations you never noticed before. You breathe in, slowly, deeply. The air is sweet with carbon. You exhale, and know that part of you might soon become a peach, or a pine, or the soft petal of a dandelion. The leaf does not know, it is miraculous, but you do, and that makes all the difference. Now, in the hush of this cycle's end, your thoughts drift gently to the question, if light can be turned into sugar, what else might be made from the invisible, and where in the world's quiet chemistry does energy go when it moves on? At first glance, It feels like a paradox. The sun shines down in a spectrum of colors, each wavelength a thread of energy: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, all spilling across the earth like a slow, radiant river. And yet, the leaves, delicate and alive, turn their backs on the most abundant offering green. They reflect it, not in rebellion, but in quiet discernment. You learn that within each leaf lives a miniature alchemist: chlorophyll, a molecule of purpose and grace, designed to drink in red and blue, to swallow their energy deep into its cells, and gently, humbly let green go. Green is not what the leaf takes in. Green is what it gives away. It is the color of release, of quiet decisions made in sunlight, of balance between what is needed and what must be let go. You imagine the leaf not as greedy, but as wise. It does not hoard every beam of light, nor chase after the full rainbow. It selects only what it can use, and allows the rest green to slip away like breath. This, you realize, is nature's meditation. The way a leaf becomes luminous, not by consumption, but by letting light pass through, reflected softly to your eyes, so you can see its life, and you begin to feel what green truly is. Not just a color, but a resonance, a heartbeat between sun and earth, a wavelength that slips past absorption and becomes presence. Green is the middle note, the balance point between heat and cool, between urgency and rest. Too much energy, and the cells would burn; too little, and they would fade. But green, gentle, measured, is just right to keep life in motion. As you sit under the branches, you notice the dappled light around you, a shifting mosaic of shadows and glow. Each flicker is the story of chlorophyll at work, turning captured sunlight into food, into breath, into life. And you understand that the color you see is not a mistake of physics, but a soft, deliberate refusal. Green is what life chooses not to keep, so it can keep being. You rest in that thought for a while. What might it mean in your own life to reflect more than you absorb, to be nourished, not by hoarding, but by choosing wisely what to take in? Like the leaves, you too exist in a spectrum. You too must decide which energies to hold and which to let drift past you, not in denial, but in balance. And in that way you become part of the forest's logic, its rhythm, its calm. The air is still. A single green leaf flutters downward, spinning slowly through a shaft of gold, and as it falls, you begin to wonder, if green is what life lets go, then what happens to the light that is taken in? What alchemy awaits in the parts of sunlight that are never seen, in the deep blue and red, now buried in cells and silence? The sun is warm today, a soft and ancient warmth that hums gently across the surface of the earth. You lie still beneath it, eyes half closed, the world around you quiet. In your hand is a fallen leaf, veined, delicate, no longer green, but still carrying the memory of light. Beside you, tilted upward toward the same golden sky, is a solar panel, smooth, precise, and humming in silence. They do not speak, but they both listen to the same light. You trace the lines on the leaf, following the tiny roads of water and sun that once fed the green life within. It is an intricate pattern, as if drawn by a patient hand, an artist of time and pressure. Each vein once carried the sun's energy into the leaf's beating heart, not with wires, but with sap, not with metal, but with chlorophyll. And the panel, it too, drinks the light. Made of silicon, born from sand, refined and ordered into a lattice, so perfect it seems unnatural. It doesn't grow, it doesn't change, but it works steadily, predictably, as photons strike it and knock electrons loose, sending a river of electricity flowing. Two kinds of light eaters, two ways of turning sunshine into something more. You breathe in the summer air, warm and slow, and you begin to compare. The solar panel converts sunlight with quiet efficiency. Maybe 20% of the light it receives becomes electricity. That's a high number, you think. Remarkable, really. But the leaf is only about 1 or 2% efficient. And yet, the forest thrives on leaves, not panels. Why? Because the leaf does not just make energy, it lives it. You picture the microscopic factories inside the leaf, tiny chloroplasts turning sunlight, water, and air into sugar, into structure, into the architecture of life itself. Photosynthesis, they call it. An elegant equation, light plus carbon dioxide plus water, glucose plus oxygen. Not a machine, but a ritual. The panel takes light and turns it into current. The leaf takes light and turns it into life. It is slower, messier, more fragile, but in the end, it builds forests. It feeds giraffes. It breathes out the oxygen you now draw gently into your lungs. The panel powers lamps and laptops. The leaf powers worlds. Still, you admire the panel, its quiet discipline. It does not falter. It does not wilt. It needs no roots, no rain, no mycorrhizal whispering beneath the soil. It will sit there for decades, basking, feeding its electrons into the grid. But the leaf, it lives in a system. It depends, it connects. Where one seeks independence, the other thrives in community. The panel is isolated. Even in a solar farm, its function is linear, its product singular. But the leaf is woven into cycles, into the breath of the earth, into the hunger of caterpillars, into the hands of wind and rain. Even in death, it nourishes. You close your eyes and imagine them both, side by side, under the sun. One is still, the other once fluttered, one gleams, the other once grew. You begin to sense that this is not a contest of better or worse, only a contrast of purpose. The panel is human intention made solid. The leaf is evolution's whisper, shaped by millions of years, and you are somewhere in between. Your brain, too, is powered by sugar spun from sunlight. And yet here you are, imagining silicon circuits, harnessing the light, not only to live, but to illuminate cities, power satellites, stream lullabies. You begin to think perhaps the difference is not in what they do, but in why they do it. The leaf, born of a tree, serves the tree, and beyond that, the forest. Its purpose is entangled in generations. The panel serves the grid, and beyond that, your human will. Its purpose is assigned, not inherited. You sit up, you hold the leaf in one hand, the panel in the other, just a small cell, a piece of the whole. You tilt them both toward the sun. For a moment, they seem the same, flat, receptive, waiting. But you know, beneath the surface, their stories diverge. The leaf is soft, intricate, biodegradable. The panel is hard, sleek, enduring. The leaf was built with atoms borrowed from the wind, returned to the soil. The panel was forged, shaped, etched. One returns to the earth, the other resists it, and yet both are children of light. You wonder if trees could engineer panels, would they? If panels could grow leaves, would they? You smile softly at the thought. Somewhere in your chest, something shifts. This isn't just a comparison, it's a meditation. A quiet reflection on how you too live beneath the sun, consuming energy, transforming it into thoughts, movements, questions. And the question that lingers now is not about efficiency, it's about harmony. Can you design machines that participate, not just extract? Can your panels feed more than just wires? Can you learn from the leaf? You look back down at the two objects in your lap, the panel unchanging, the leaf already beginning to dry and curl. Side by side, they rest. Side by side, they teach. Not competition, but complement. And in that delicate balance, you feel the beginnings of something, a new way to think. A design not just of circuits and cells, but of cycles and relationships. One that honors the leaf and empowers the panel. Together, you lie back again. The sun is lowering now. Its light is softer. The leaf no longer drinks it. The panel still does. You exhale slowly, feeling the breath of the trees around you. And as the light begins to fade, a quiet thought begins to rise. What if machines could grow like forests? What if technology could root and breathe and belong? What if your next design didn't just use the sun, but danced with it? The sun slips behind the horizon, its golden spill retreating like a tide. A hush settles over the garden, not silence, but something gentler, a soft shifting of purpose. The plants do not sleep as animals do, but they do change. They slow, they soften. You kneel in the evening soil, its warmth still clinging to your palms. The leaves above are tinted blue by twilight. They no longer reach for light. They curl inwards slightly, like a deep breath held. All day, photosynthesis has danced here, unseen. Light sliced into molecules, energy trapped inside sugar rings, carbon pulled from the breath of the air and locked into something sweet, something alive. The leaves are green no longer from pride, but from purpose. Each one a collector, a quiet alchemist of sun and gas and water. Now, the light is gone, and so the leaves rest. But the garden does not stop. Beneath your feet, in soil laced with roots like fine embroidery, something wondrous unfolds. Sugars made during the sunlit hours travel downward. They flow like memory, stored in thickening stems, coiled inside tubers, wrapped into seeds not yet born. The plant does not eat as we do, it becomes its food. The glucose made under daylight's hand feeds more than the leaf that made it. It nourishes every part. The fruit that swells with promise, the root that anchors and dreams, the flower that waits for tomorrow's light to open again. You sit with a tomato in your hand, its skin still warm from the afternoon. Inside, each cell holds a whisper of sunlight, a story of photons caught and cradled, rearranged into sweetness. You imagine the energy passing from sky to leaf to sugar to fruit to you. In this chain, nothing is lost, only transformed. This is photosynthesis paused, a gentle turning inward, a lullaby of molecules. You listen, around you crickets begin their slow, deliberate song. Their rhythm mirrors the garden's hush, not still but steady. Above, the stars begin to prick through the dusk, each one a far-off sun. But here, your sun has left its mark, not just in warmth or light, but in the very matter of life. Every leaf, every petal, every stem you touch made possible by photons that traveled 93 million miles to become sugar, and the sugar becomes stem, and the stem becomes strength, and the strength becomes the tree. A green memory of sunlight. You lie back now, the earth beneath you firm, your eyes catching the first blink of Venus, and under your body, the roots pulse, sugars move, metabolism hums a nighttime tune. Even in the dark, the work continues, but it is quieter now, like breathing while asleep. Slower, deeper, storing away energy like a squirrel tucking away seeds, like a memory folding itself inside a dream. You run your hand along the bark of a young sapling, its skin is smooth, and you feel the slow pulse of life beneath. It drank sunlight today, and now it dreams. Isn't that what this is? A kind of dreaming. Photosynthesis isn't just chemistry, it is story, a tale of sun and air and time, retold by leaves in a language of sugar. You stand and walk among the rows of plants. In each leaf there once lived a moment of brilliance, a photon, captured, a spark, slowed, energy, held like breath in a jar. The garden is dark now, but it is not empty. It is full, brimming with stored daylight, not as light, but as potential, as sweetness, as the quiet readiness for growth. This is not the end of photosynthesis, only the other half. The storing, the sharing, the becoming. You breathe deeply, inhaling the faint scent of green life cooling in the dark. There's a rhythm here, day and night, light and shadow, production and preservation. The cycle is endless, but never rushed. You remember in the sun there is activity, in the dark there is recovery. Both are needed, both are sacred. You sit again beside the tomato vine, now just a silhouette against the night. You wonder how it knows when to stop, how to turn from gathering light to gathering strength. The answer, perhaps, lies not in knowing but in being. The plant doesn't think, it doesn't ask, it just responds, to sun, to shade, to the silent script written in its cells. You listen to the wind brushing past the leaves, a lullaby of breath, of molecules, of quiet continuation. The sugars rest now, but they wait to be used by the roots, by the fruits, by the life they will become. This is the moment between breaths, the pause that holds power, the darkness that doesn't erase, but gathers. The day's energy is not gone. It is simply waiting, wrapped in cells, folded into fiber, hidden in sweetness. And as you rise and turn toward your home, a soft curiosity stirs inside you, not just about the plants, but the light itself. Where did the sunlight begin? What makes a photon leave its star and journey here? Zoom out, gently, until you see the whole forest inhale and exhale with the rhythm of light. It is a symphony of silent work of light caught, carbon-shaped, oxygen offered, full chapter body, 1,200 words. You begin beneath a single leaf. Its surface gleams with morning, and if you look closely, so closely, you could almost feel the warmth of the photons landing there. You'll find a green world of quiet transformation. Inside this small blade, sunlight is not merely light, it is the start of everything. Each ray is welcomed like an honored guest, split apart and stitched into sugar-tiny bricks that will build bark, root, branch, and bloom. This is photosynthesis. But tonight, it is also poetry. You are drifting now, floating just above the canopy. Trees stretch beneath you like soft sea anemones in a vast green ocean. The forest breathes, not with lungs but with every leaf opening to the sky, each one sipping carbon dioxide and breathing out threads of oxygen. In daylight, this breath is deep and generous. At night, it softens, the rhythm changing with the turning earth. You realize now that trees are not silent. They whisper in a language of molecules. They exhale the breath you will one day inhale, and in return you offer carbon that will help them grow. The exchange is elegant, unseen, unspoken, constant. You drift between trunks. The air is laced with the scent of moss and bark, of slow decay feeding slow growth. Beneath the soil, more secrets stir. Roots reach outward like fingers in the dark, touching, tasting, exchanging. Fungi lace themselves through this underworld, forming a living network, thinner than threads of silk, but strong enough to carry news, warnings, nourishment. It's called the mycorrhizal web, but tonight it is simply a forest whispering to itself. One tree, sensing drought, passes sugars to another. One seedling, shaded, is fed by its elders. Nothing here is separate. Every life leans into another. You pause, let the stillness wrap around you. You begin to feel the vastness not in scale but in complexity. Every rustle of a branch is the echo of a molecule moving. Every bird call is the byproduct of energy that began in a leaf. Every breath of yours was once inside a tree. You float higher still. Now the forest folds beneath you like an emerald quilt. You see how rivers wind through it like silver stitching, how clearings open like windows in green walls. But even from this distance you know each inch hums with activity. 1 billion reactions per second, in each leaf, in each cell. Photons split, electrons dance, bonds break and reform into sugar and strength. You begin to understand that light is not just warmth or brightness, it is currency. It is the coin that fuels everything that grows, and plants with their quiet green engines are the world's first alchemists. They take what seems useless, carbon dioxide, sunlight, water, and spin it into fuel, into form, into forests. It is an ancient magic practiced every day by blades of grass and towering pines alike. And you are woven into its rhythm. Your body is built of carbon once held in a tree. Your bones grew strong from calcium mined by roots. You are not outside this forest. You are part of its song. Down below you notice movement. A deer brushes past a sapling. Its hooves stir the soil, pressing seeds into darkness. A squirrel forgets a nut beneath the moss. A beetle carves tunnels through rotting wood, making space for air, for water, for life. The forest does not waste. It does not rush. Everything is part of something else. There is no loneliness here, only connection, only flow. And yet, it is not passive. The trees reach for light with fierce determination. Sap rises against gravity with astonishing strength. Even the tiniest shoot bursts through the soil like a promise kept. You begin to see how life in this place is both soft and strong. Delicate leaves endure storms. Thin roots crack stone, stillness hides the ferocity of growth. Now night deepens. The canopy fades into shadow, and fireflies flicker like stars drawn near. The forest exhales more slowly now, its day's work done. But even in the dark, chemistry continues. Sugars move from leaf to root, cells repair what the sun has stressed. The balance holds, you return to the leaf where you began. Its tiny pores called stomata breathe in and out like lungs. You imagine the air rushing through them, carrying stories of places you've never seen. A breeze from another forest, a molecule exhaled by a blue whale, a sigh released by a sleeping child. And this is the forest's gift, to take what is old and make it new, to turn air into form and form into life. Now you understand. Photosynthesis is not just a process, it is a promise, a quiet agreement between light and life. The sun will rise, and the forest will rise with it. Every leaf will stretch once more, and the work will begin again. You exhale, not just to let go, but to give something back. You feel yourself sinking gently towards sleep, lulled by the steady rhythm of leaves and air, the green heartbeat of the world continuing whether you wake or not. You feel the forest wrap around you, not just the trees but the idea of trees, the lesson of trees, that stillness can be strength, that giving can be growing, that light, even quiet light, can change everything. And as you drift, your thoughts begin to widen beyond the forest, beyond Earth itself, to wonder what sunlight does when it leaves this planet, and how light behaves when no leaves catch it at all. You close your eyes, and the present slips away. You drift gently backward, not just years or centuries, but billions of years, until the world no longer resembles the one you know. There are no trees, no animals, no sounds of birdsong in the morning. The earth is still young, cloaked in clouds of steam and silence. Oceans stretch far and wide, empty of everything familiar, yet teeming with something small, something waiting. You hover near a shallow, sunlit coastline. The waves are warm and lazy, the sky an eternal dawn. There's a shimmer in the water, not of fish, not yet, but of life so small, it escapes even your thoughts. Here, nestled in the cradle of ancient tides, tiny cyanobacteria float gently in colonies like invisible islands. They are among the first to try something new, to drink sunlight. You watch as a photon, a golden traveler from the sun, lands on one of these ancient beings, and something extraordinary happens. Inside the cyanobacterium, molecules rearrange themselves with elegant purpose. They catch the light and split the water. They hold on to energy and release a breath, oxygen. It's the first time the planet exhales. This is photosynthesis, but to the cyanobacteria, it's simply life. They don't know they are transforming the world. They don't know that in freeing oxygen into the air, they are writing a script for forests, for lungs, for wings. They are just surviving. But in doing so, they are beginning a lineage that will one day stretch into oak trees, fern leaves, and fields of wheat. You drift among them now, their forms delicate, soft, suspended in glowing water. They do not speak, they do not move, and yet they are full of motion, a chemical dance, rhythmic and ancient, each one a tiny engine powered by sunlight. You imagine their world not in silence, but in song, a slow humming of energy and potential. Over generations they multiply. Layer upon layer, they grow into thick microbial mats along the ocean floor and in tidal pools. These mats are called stromatolites, and you watch them rise like living stone, hard rippling domes shaped by time and tides. They leave behind fossils that will last far longer than any whisper of their creators. At first, their gift of oxygen is a poison. The early Earth is not ready. Oceans full of iron react violently. The oxygen binds with metal, turning seas to rust red, sinking out of sight. But the cyanobacteria keep breathing light. They keep making air, and slowly the skies change. You look up, the world is becoming blue. A sky forms where none existed. shaped by the quiet work of these unthinking alchemists. The great oxidation event begins, a slow revolution that takes millions of years. The atmosphere fills with the breath of light, and somewhere in the distance, cells begin to learn from cyanobacteria. They absorb them, adopt them, turning these light eaters into chloroplasts, the green engines that will live inside every plant. From this union, plants are born, the first mosses, then ferns, then trees that scrape the clouds. But it all begins here, with you, floating silently beside the cyanobacteria, feeling the sunlight pass through your thoughts like a current too old to name. And you wonder, what is it? This ancient hunger for light. How does a cell know to reach for energy in such an elegant way? You realize something profound. Life does not begin with action, but with attention. The cyanobacteria did not move or fight. They simply noticed the sun, and in that noticing they opened a door, a quiet revolution that made breath possible, that made forests inevitable. Now you watch the oxygen rise like mist. It curls into the sky, wrapping the planet in a new kind of possibility. With every exhale from these invisible pioneers, the future draws closer, the planet grows quieter still, as if holding its breath, not in fear but in awe. The cyanobacteria continue, unaware of their legacy. But you know, you've seen it. You've traced the green thread back to this moment, where everything begins not with roots or seeds, but with light, and something that dared to catch it. You rest there, on the edge of the tide, beside the smallest ancestors of all forests. Their lives are simple, but their work is endless, and slowly the coast grows green in your imagination. Not yet, but soon. Because every tree carries a memory of this moment, of the first to turn sunlight into food, of the first to give the world its breath. And so in the gentle rhythm of photosynthesis, you feel the pulse of everything to come, a steady chlorophyll-lit beat that hums beneath every leaf, every blade of grass, every breath you take. You float still, not needing to move. Above you, the world is just beginning to dream in green. And beneath you something stirs, something new and strange. Single cells learning to share space, to build larger bodies, to organize and specialize. The age of complex life is approaching. Not fast, not loud, but quietly as always. Like a shadow stretching just beneath the waterline, multicellularity begins to emerge. The day settles around you like soft moss beneath bare feet, and your thoughts slow, stretching long in the hush between each breath. You lie still now, not to escape the world, but to feel more of it more deeply, more clearly. And so tonight, you drift not outward into stars or oceans, but inward toward your own quiet forest of origin. You begin with the leaf. Imagine it trembling gently in the golden hush of a late afternoon sun. Its surface is unassuming, a simple patch of green among countless others, but inside, it performs a quiet miracle. The leaf does not eat, yet it feeds the world. It does not speak, yet it tells the story of light becoming life. Within its cells are tiny factories called chloroplasts, packed with a vivid green pigment. Chlorophyll. This pigment is ancient, older than flowers, older than bones. It catches sunlight the way your skin catches warmth, and in that moment, energy, true, radiant energy, enters the grand cycle. Sunlight, broken into particles called photons, touches the leaf, and chlorophyll answers with alchemy. It pulls carbon dioxide from the air, water from the roots, and binds them together into sugar, into fuel, into the first breath of food. And as it does this, the leaf breathes out oxygen quietly, selflessly into the world. You inhale now, and you inhale a gift. That breath carries atoms once cradled inside a maple, an elm, a pine. Each breath you take carries a memory of a million leaves, working in silence, never asking for anything in return. You may think you are separate from the forest, the garden, the green things, but that is an illusion of distance. For every cell in your body runs on the energy of sugar, and every sugar molecule begins its journey in a leaf. the apple you bite into, the rice on your plate, even the milk or meat, those too begin with grass, with photosynthesis. With sun caught and stored by chlorophyll, you are not merely surrounded by plants, you are built by them. Pause here and press your hand to your chest. Beneath your ribs, your heart is pulsing, steady and soft. It beats because the mitochondria in your cells are breaking down sugars, releasing the very energy that began in sunlight. That sunlight flowed into a leaf, into fruit, into you. That is not poetry. That is biology. Yet, doesn't it feel like a poem? You are the sun, remembered. A walking echo of a garden. A living, breathing continuation of a photosynthetic thread that stretches back billions of years. Even your breath speaks of it. The carbon dioxide you exhale tonight will drift and linger. It will wander until it brushes against the surface of a plant, perhaps a fern near a stream, or a blade of wheat in some distant field. The plant will take it in, spin it into life again, and the cycle will continue. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Every apple you have eaten, every breath you have drawn, is part of this grand green generosity, and there's more. Deep within your blood flows a molecule called hemorrhage iron, deep in color. It binds oxygen and lets your body breathe. This hem molecule shares an uncanny cousin in chlorophyll. They are nearly twins, chemically speaking. The main difference: at the center of chlorophyll is magnesium, at the heart of hemion, two rings of atoms. One makes leaves green, the other makes your blood red. It's as though the earth used the same brush stroke twice, once to paint the forest, once to paint you, and so you begin to see it more clearly now that you are not a guest on this planet, not a visitor in the world of plants. You are one of them. An offshoot, a next chapter. You grow upright, just as trees do. You reach for warmth, just as they do. You lean toward light. You seek sustenance from what they make. You breathe their breath, and in turn, they take yours. Together you and the green world are engaged in a slow, endless conversation of breath and food, of giving and taking. You are not above the forest. You are within it, always. Even your earliest ancestors knew this truth. They gathered plants for healing. They listened to trees creak in the wind like old storytellers. They sang to the crops, believing the harvest heard them. And whether or not the plants listened, they responded through bounty, through bloom. Now, in this quieter age, surrounded by walls and artificial light, it is easy to forget this deep bond, easy to see plants as background, as decoration, but the truth is, they are the beginning, the origin, the quiet architects of all that follows. They build without noise, feed without teeth. They hold the sun in their leaves and pass it on, asking nothing in return. And you are the evidence of their work. Think for a moment of the chloroplants. Once, billions of years ago, they were free-floating bacteria. They lived in the sea, catching sunlight alone. One day they were swallowed by a larger cell, but instead of being digested, they stayed. They kept working, and thus began the first plant cell, the first green breath. Now, within each blade of grass and leaf of lettuce, there are thousands of chloroplants, tiny silent suns, still glowing with that same ancient task. The world depends on this strange, beautiful cooperation, cell within cell, sun within leaf, plant within planet, and now you within it. You carry this lineage quietly, humbly. When you walk through a field, you are not just passing by biology, you are reconnecting with ancestry. You are not above the plants, you are their child, and in knowing this truly, knowing this, you find a new kind of peace, a softness, a sense of being held, because wherever there is green, you are welcome. Wherever there is sun, there is food. Wherever there is breath, there is a shared rhythm. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine your lungs like leaves. Picture each breath as a thread weaving you back into the garden. You are not alone. You are never apart. You are of chlorophyll, of photons, of plants, and tomorrow, what other quiet giants will you meet? Perhaps beneath your feet, a different story waits older, darker, buried in root and stone.